The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
I'll give you a little story where I saw the hand of Hashem. My wife and a few of my kids, my daughters are here. They were in the car at the time. It was 2 or 3 years ago. We went upstate for a Shabbat during winter vacation. And we're driving back, and it's snowing outside. We're in a minivan. And as we're driving back, I forgot what's called, the 17. All of a sudden, I hit black ice. And I lose complete control of the car. The car spins once, spins twice, hits an embankment on the side, spins across the highway entirely, and stops on the other side in the snow. I would later find out that that embankment has like a mountain and a crazy drop underneath. The car stops. Again, it spun 2 or 3 times, full circle spins, with all my kids, a bunch of my kids in the back. The car stops. I immediately look around to see my kids are okay. And as it stops, I see a minivan pull right behind me. Man comes out. He says, "Get all your kids and put them in my car." I said, "Who are you? What are you? What are you doing here?" After a few minutes, he tells me a story. He says, "My name is Mr. Engel. I'm a Hasidic man. There's no one else here on the highway. I saw your car spin. I figured you were Jewish. You know why? Because it was a minivan." And he said, "I pulled up. I was right behind you. I never drive an empty van, ever. It's the first time almost ever. So I have an empty van. I pulled up right behind you. And I said, let your kids come into my car and we'll go." I said, "1 second, the car's a mess. They had to tow it. The cops came. They're so glorious. They gave me 2 tickets. So nice of them. And then they had the Hatzalah came, checked out my kids. We put all the luggage in the man's car. And after an hour of waiting, this Mr. Hasidic man, Mr. Engel, drove us back to Brooklyn." I said to him, "What are you doing here? What's the story?" He says, "I happen to be on the highway right behind you." I said, "But there's no one else on the highway." He says, "I understand, but I happen to be the only person who's right behind you. And I was right behind you, so I saw you pull to the side. I came right behind you." I said, as the driver, it's a 2-hour drive to Brooklyn. I said, "What do you do?" He says, "You know what I do? I'm part of an organization that does chesed." What's the chesed that we do? If someone has a family member in the hospital, me and all the members of the organization will drive a family member to see them. So that means, let's say someone's wife is in the hospital. We'll drive the husband on the way to work from Brooklyn to the city. We'll drive the husband to the hospital. And this way we give them people a ride. I said, "Wow, that's fantastic." I said, "So you do this?" He says, "Yeah, I did 87 such rides in the last month." Last month. He had a car that had over 1,000 rides. I know my story's taking long, but I'll get to the point in a second. He says, I said to him, "1 second, where do you work?" I said, "Where do you live?" He says, "I live in Brooklyn." I said, "Where do you work?" He says, "I work in Brooklyn." I said, "So how do you do the rides?" He says, "This is what I do. I wake up in the morning, I drive someone to NYU, then I drive back, and then I go to work." I said, "All this for free?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "And you're the person who happens to be right behind me on the 17, 2.5 hours away from Brooklyn, and you're coming to Brooklyn right behind me, and you take my whole family?" I said, "Hashem, this is an absolute, complete, total miracle. There's not a completeness. On the 17, on the snowy night, there's no one on the highway, the man behind me, right as I spin, hit the embankment, come to the forehead, is the man who has an empty van, and this is what he does. He gives people rides." So that's the hand of Hashem. So I told the story a few times. They made a clip out of it, the whole thing. And you get the impression that these stories happen all the time. And the truth is they do, but they also don't. Because I have a question for you. If Hashem really wanted to take care of me, you know what he could have done? He could have made no black ice, made me not spin, and let me just get home. Why the whole spin guy behind me? It's such a cool story, but it would have been much easier if I just got home. The answer is that Hashem makes those stories sometimes for him to show us that he's here and he's in charge. It's not that he makes those stories because every time they come out the right way. He makes things happen to us in our life to constantly remind us who's in charge. Sometimes when he wants it to work out the way we hope, it works out the way we hope. Sometimes when he doesn't want it to work out the way we hope, it doesn't work out the way we hope. So don't let those stories be some something that makes you believe that this has to happen. Like Rabbi Esher said before, those stories are hope. Those stories are reminders that Hashem is in the world and is controlling what's happening in the world. Those stories give us strength, they give us hope, but they shouldn't give us expectation. Because expectation at times is false. Because nowhere does it say that because I pray, I automatically get what I want to get. I trust in Hashem that I'm going to get the best, what's best for me. That's what I trust. Sometimes it's that everything works out right. Sometimes it's things don't work out the way I hoped. But I have the hope that He's involved. The stories remind me that He's involved. Those stories give me the word again, hope that He's always in control. But those stories don't mean that they always happen the way I hope they do. It means that He's always there, He's always watching, He's always involved. So when you have those stories, and if you pay attention, every one of us has stories like that in your life. When you have those stories should be a reminder He's always here. Whether He has a Mr. Engel driving right behind me, or whether He sends cops to give me tickets. The whole thing is Him. That's the point of those stories. That He's here, He's involved. Not to create an expectation, just to create a hope.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org